Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Sorry if I sound a little bit under the weather, just guess it's that time of year. But anyways, as you can see by the title of the video, this is going to be my preparations for San Antonio. Now, I do prepare for, intend, I should say, on this being just kind of a quick, unedited video. But this is just myself kind of going over my team and what I am anticipating on bringing to the San Antonio Regional Championships in 2023 for the 2024 season. So, needless to say, the team that I have and that you will see in front of you at this moment in time is a team that I have been actually utilizing a lot within. I have brought this to 2 locals so far within the past 2 weeks. Now, this team is very much optimizing a few different areas, and it's just something I'm really comfortable for. During this season, something that I've been really realizing during Regulation E specifically is how important offensive pressure is. So, things like Tailwind, Trick Room, anything involving that kind of area with massive speed control and being able to hit incredibly hard really does help in this type of meta. Now, you can have more defensive strategies as, in the recording of this video, Dondozo is starting to come up again with Glamora support, so you just pretty much poison everything and then have Dondozo with leftovers to kind of sit behind and wait out until you've got enough damage dealt to your opponents to where you can slowly pick off each of your opponents. Now, I want to go over, though, pretty much what you will guaranteed see at this moment of time in recording. I've pulled up Pikalytics here just to kind of go through my thought process and why I am thinking the team I am. So, I have been getting really comfortable with the Pokemon Roaring Moon. Now, the reason on why I've been liking Roaring Moon a lot is because its speed with the booster energy actually gives it a really nice, it puts it at a really nice spot in the meta to where you're able to actually come in and one-shot a lot of things with acrobatics, which is really, really useful. Now, one of the big things that I'm actually coming up with is Knockoff gaining access to it within the Teal Mask DLC. It's been really nice to be able to knock off items, specifically choice scarves, and be able to really take advantage of that because then you've got Pokemon like Ogerpon to where they can take initiative of that speed tier and KO things before they inevitably will KO you. So that's been really nice, and I also really like Breaking Swipe. The reason being is because it hits both opponents, does damage, and lowers their attack by 1 stage. So it's a very consistent move, but the biggest reason on why I like Roaring Moon is because he is able to really apply offensive pressure into specific things in the meta, such as Flutter Mane, Urshifu, who has been just massive in this format over the past few years. We've seen him in Sword and Shield and all that fun stuff, so it's been one of those things where it's just, he, I don't think, is going to be going down, especially because we're not in a meta with Dynamax. With Dynamax, he wasn't as strong. Dynamax and Gigantamax, blah, blah, blah. But with not being able to do that, being able to break through, protect, and consistently crit, it's literally something that no Pokemon can do. So, essentially speaking, he is going to be one of the better Pokemon right now in the format, and Roaring Moon really mitigates him. So that was kind of my thought process behind Roaring Moon. Going over kind of the rest of the team, as you can see, Ogerpon Wellspring is getting a lot of use, and so is Hearthflame, and Rillaboom as well. Now, seeing all of those grass types, flying types are actually really solid into that. So I have kind of came to the conclusion of the booster energy being utilized and the typical Terra Flying Acrobatics Roaring Moon. It's never really gone anywhere, but it being in this meta specifically, it just accents it really well. So I've grown really comfortable with this Roaring Moon. So I have brought it to pretty much every in-person tournament that I've been to, and it has seen a lot of success. So The rest of my team, however, Farigiraf is just specifically for priority, and it's a solid support mon that can live a lot of hits and quite reliably set up Trick Room. I really do appreciate how well Farigiraf kind of like comfortably sets up Trick Room, and it's something that I honestly am really thankful for, just because it has been a Pokemon that like legitimately every match that I've brought it to has provided some type of support. Now, Helping Hand is one of those moves for me, though, that's kind of a floating slot right now. It's not that I'm not clicking it, because there are situations I am, and there are situations where Helping Hand is immensely helpful. But it is a move where it's like, if I needed to change something, it could definitely be that slot. So that's been something that I've been having to kind of like consider while building the rest of this team. Next up, I will go over Iron Hands. Now, as you can see, my first iteration of this team, because I didn't specifically know what I wanted to do with it, so my first iteration builds are very much just min-maxing. Biggest reason why, you need to get adjusted to your Pokemon before you specifically know what you want them to accomplish. So, and understanding like how much damage they're going to be taking in specific scenarios, so on and so forth. It just comes with playing with the team for a little bit longer. It's very straightforward. I don't really care to be faster than other Iron Hands because I run Trick Room on Farigiraf, so I just run a Brave Nature, and we just kind of go from there, max attack, max HP, and just kind of go in. But the reason on why I'm going with the Assault Vest Iron Hands is it is one of the most consistent Pokemon just that Pokemon has ever created. It has access to Fake Out. It's a very solid physical attacker that can heal himself with Drain Punch. Wild Charge does immense consistent damage, and Heavy Slam is an answer to one of the most broken Pokemon ever introduced in Pokemon, Fluttermane. Terra Psychic was specifically so that I could beat Iron Hand mirrors. I am normally never clicking Terra with Iron Hands, though. Like, it's very rare where I'm like, Iron Hands is going to be my Terra option. Normally, my Terra is going to either be Roaring Moon, or it's going to be Ogerpon, and if I've set up Trick Room really, really solidly, it's Enamorus, which I'll go over in a little bit. But first, I'd like to go over Ogerpon. Now, I'm running the Teal Mask Ogerpon specifically because he's very versatile. Being able to get access to Defiant means I'm not super scared of Intimidate, and my opponent's going to be scared to bring Intimidate, or if they're not scared to bring Intimidate, I can easily pressure them. So that easy punish that I can kind of deliver with being able to activate Defiant, immediately Terrastalize, gain my speed boost, I can outspeed Landorus, I can outspeed Fluttermane, and he just does phenomenal, consistent damage. So I love Teal Mask Ogerpon. And the big reason on why, like, Stomping Tantrum provides great coverage into specific Pokemon like Fire types, like Heatran and Torkoal, and sometimes even when Hearthflame Ogerpon Terrastalizes. The other interesting thing that I've been running on mine, and anybody is subject to run whatever they want to on their Ogerpon, because he gets really solid support moves. I guess I should say she gets very solid support moves. But my favorite is Taunt, and the biggest reason why is because it helps me shut down specific matchups with a really offensive threat in my Ogerpon, and I really appreciate having that kind of pressure on the field, because a lot of the time, the really passive Pokemon are going to take advantage of your hyper-offensive Pokemon. My hyper-offensive Pokemon having access to Taunt shuts those individuals down so that I can kind of still be able to pick up the knockouts that I'm needing to while I'm in my hyper-offensive mode. Next up, I'll go over Enamorus. Enamorus was actually a last-minute decision right before I had entered my local. And the biggest reason on why I thought Enamorus is because I'm very easily able, and if you guys have ever played with Iron Hands Farigiraf, Trick Room is almost guaranteed. There's really not much that can get Farigiraf immediately off the field in one hit. There's very minimal Pokemon that can do that in the meta. So being able to consistently put up Trick Room, I was like, man, I need a really solid Trick Room threat. Who's a really good Trick Room sweeper? So I thought of Torkoal, and it just really wasn't a Pokemon that I was kind of like, man, I really want to use Torkoal. Because there's a lot of, really hard counters to fire, especially right now. And I thought there's not really like you can't really like be immune to fairy type moves. You can resist them, but you can't be immune to them. So I thought, might as well use this discount Flutter Mane. Except the bulk on an Amarys is phenomenal. And I'll go over that a little bit more in depth as the video kind of continues. But for now, keeping it simple, hits like a truck, and I wanted to take initiative of the Trick Room immediately. So instead of it just being like something where I'm like, oh, well, I can set up a few turns, it's like, no, Trick Room lasts 5 turns. I need to take initiative of my Trick Room when it's up. How do I do that? An Amarys. Choice specs. Immediately being able to go, okay, I can now just fire off really powerful moves. Almost no drawbacks. And finally, Ting Lu. Now, the biggest reason on why Ting Lu is because of the presence of Psy Spam, Heatran, and Golden Go. Now, Ting Lu is able to really help against all of those. It even does help against Flutter Mane, but I know it sounds crazy, but that's not really Ting Lu's main help. That's not really why I have Ting Lu. The reason I have Ting Lu is specifically to beat those 3 matchups. Because Golden Go, in all honesty, is now being one of the most overused Pokemon. So it's really nice to be able to have a consistent answer into Golden Go. Even if it Terras and if it gets to +2, it's like having a consistent answer in Ting Lu being like, hey, you're still like kind of almost a subtracted value of your special attack. So instead of being +2, you're +1 because Ting Lu's on the field. So that was kind of my thought process. And the reason why I went Choice Band is just because I didn't want my Ting Lu to be dead weight. And Ruination, as good of a move as it is, I don't like relying on something that I really have to hit and it being 90 accuracy. So I wanted to make sure that I kind of really optimized his use. So I just kind of went with a Throat Chop, Earthquake, Stomping Tantrum, Rock Slide, Choice Band set. As for my results, I did pretty well. I think that the team actually was really solid. One of the big things that I do need to be able to consider, like moving forward, and especially moving into San Antonio, is I didn't really have an answer for Dozoguri. And in a lot of my iterations of my team that I'll be going over, it's still really hard to kind of find that answer for Dozoguri. Not really too many different changes with the team with this one, but I'll go over them in just a second. Because me mentioning Dozoguri, I've been thinking about utilizing possibly Weezing, specifically a Haze Weezing, and dropping Protect. Now, I have not tested with this yet, but I would like to kind of see what it can do for my team. It might make my team too passive, but it also might really help my team in being able to have a solid, consistent answer against Dondozo. So we're going to try these teams out and just kind of go over them. But first, let me go over some of the changes with my teams. So it's going to be the same kind of EV spread for all of them. So I'm going to be trying the Tailwind instead of my Acrobatics Roaring Moon, just so I can run like a T-Wind Trick Room type core, so you have access to both, depending on however you're wanting to run it. You can do whatever you're needing to. So the biggest thing that I'm trying to decide is if the Tailwind is going to be necessary for my team to succeed. Now, the only thing that I do worry about is having Tailwind means that I have to drop a move on Roaring Moon, and a lot of the moves on Roaring Moon are very, very valuable. Acrobatics, I do click a lot, so seeing if I can adjust my play without it is going to be very interesting. Kept the IV spread or the EV spread the same because you really don't need to change it. I want the speed boost more than the attack boost, so you drop your attack down to 220 while keeping a Jolly Nature. You'll have just enough speed to make sure that you're always getting your speed boost. Now, switching over to my Farigiraf. Kind of going over this, I dropped my HP just a little bit, just because, honestly, I don't necessarily need that much HP, and the reason on why is because I have a base of 120. So, like, even if I, like, fully drop it and just kind of go, like, boom, That's almost optimizing more, just because I'm going to be able to take the specific hits I need to a little bit more consistently. I'll actually probably drop this to a nice even 120. Same thing for this. And then just kind of keep that right there. Just so I have 200 HP and 120 on both of my defenses. And now you guys might be asking, why modest? It's actually quite simple. The reason on why I'm running a modest nature is I drew inspiration from somebody I'd actually versed in my tournament, in my local. He had let me know that he had done modest nature on his Farigiraf and legitimately just didn't dump any stats into it, just so it had enough special attack to be a little bit more threatening. And I loved that idea, so I'm going to try it out and see what we think. Now, I am going to be keeping a lot of attack into my Iron Hands with my first attempt on the team. Now, the biggest reason on why I'm going to be keeping a lot of attack is because I want to be able to catch a lot of bulky Pokemon off guard. A lot of Pokemon are running to kind of stop the 76 attack Iron Hands, so having a lot more investment is something that I don't think a lot of kids will be prepared for, and it'll help me kind of keep my edge on my opponent. I love the max special defense, and I'm actually, instead of going 60 here, I'm going to put my 60 into HP specifically so that I can live the Flutter Mane Choice Specs Moonblast. Next up is Ogerpon. Super, super easy change. I just switched from Jolly to Adamant. The biggest reason on why is because I'm still going to outspeed a lot of the Pokemon I need to. The only thing that I'm not going to be outspeeding by default is Chi-Yu, max speed. So this is something that I do need to be very careful of, and I have to, while in testing, be able to see how many times I run into that, where my speed does matter in that scenario. Now for Enamorus, I've literally just kept it the same kind of spread. I'm not sure what I specifically need to be living yet. Even after one tournament, it's more that I need to be able to kind of figure out, okay, what am I building for? And I'll figure that out as I keep playing. And then for Ting-Lu wise, I just wanted it to be able to guaranteed outspeed Chi-Yu after a Tailwind so that I can kind of accent my Tailwind core. And then just making sure that he really takes initiative of that choice band still. And seeing if the special attack drop with Ting-Lu matters. Because here's the other change that I am actually wanting to try and was recommended. Now, everything stays the same, except I actually do want to switch up my Iron Hands set to the faster Iron Hands. Somewhere around 68 speed investment. Give him a little bit of HP, a little bit of there, max, perfect. Now, the reason on why I want to run 68 is a lot of people are running at 60 speed just so they can outspeed other Iron Hands. This will make sure that your Iron Hands is really quick and can really accent the Tailwind. Now, the big change with this team is going to be Ursaluna. The Earthquake slot is actually subjective. I'm going to see what I can... I do not know why this is high horsepower. Ew. There we go. Okay. The Earthquake slot is something that I'm probably going to be able to change. But I do really want to make sure that I try it out first before I change it, just because the spread might be really nice. I can accent next to Enamorus, and after a Tailwind, I might be able to just really wreck things with Earthquake, so that's something I'm really wanting to try. And like you guys saw, one of the final changes was Wheezing. Now these are all three very simple changes. I will be going a little bit more in depth on this team and making a little bit more of an in-depth preparation video before I end up going to San Antonio, so that I can kind of have a little bit more confidence in knowing that, you know, this team will help me perform in a way that I'm proud of. I don't really want to have a team that I'm uncomfortable with their calcs, uncomfortable with their speed tiers, and uncomfortable with their movesets. I want a team that I'm very much in tune with and ready to compete with. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to be trying a battle with each of these three, a best of 3 battle, and we'll kind of see from there what we're going to be able to do and what did the best. So, let's start this up. I know one battle doesn't do a team justice, but I don't want to keep this video going forever, so... Alright, cool. So, essentially speaking, he's going to be running the Booster Speed Flutter Mane. I can tell just because Icy Wind. Assault Vest, Terragrass, Iron Hands. We've got the Wood Hammer, Follow Me, Wellspring. So probably a bulkier set. No, I actually assume that this one's going to be a little bit more of an offensive set just because of Wood Hammer. We see the Choice Banded Arcanine, the Dark Focus Sash, Urshifu, and Landorus Incarnate. Now, seeing this team, they're all really quick. So I immediately want to do Iron Hands Farigiraf to set the Trick Room. And then what I'm actually going to do is I normally will kind of go like, okay, well, I'll set one Mon outside of Trick Room. But on this one, I'm actually just going to bring for my game one, I'm going to bring my whole Trick Room core just so they can kind of get themselves, I don't know, we'll get ourselves kind of in there. So now seeing this lead specifically makes me go, okay, if I can get Ting Lu in here pretty safely and almost immediately, I'm going to be absolutely fine. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to bring in Ting Lu, and I'm just going to try to set the Trick Room immediately. We're going to see how well that does. The reason on why I'm thinking this is because I'd assume they'd think I'd go for like Fake Out or Heavy Slam into their Flutter Mane. So, and look, perfect. That is a perfect position to be in. Now, because he's Terra Poison, I can pretty safely just go for the Throat Chop into this slot. And then I'm actually just going to go for the Dazzling Gleam just to deal a little bit of damage into Flutter. Or, no, because I have the special attack drop. What I should do is I might want to just try to kill Flutter. Just go for like Earthquake and then switch into Enamorus. And that's okay. I assumed. I more or less wanted to see what he was going to do and kind of plan to do with his Landorus. On this turn right here, I am just going to see with the special attack drop if I can actually take out his Landorus. This is the big thing on where Ursaring is going to accent Enamorus a little bit more from what I'm seeing. I do like the special attack drop, though, that Enamorus or that Ting Lu kind of provides for the team. Oh, and I completely spaced that. Terroring myself was going to make me not immune to that. That was a very goofy play. Switch into Farigiraf again, and just go for the Heavy Slam. I'm probably going to lose this one just because I've played kind of silly, but that's okay. That's the scary thing about running Earthquake on a team member, but it's things you get used to. There we go. Hey, that's okay. I think I can still pick up the Flutter, depending on the bulk they have, so. I'll just go for the Drain Punch. He didn't go for Protect. That's actually really surprising. So with that special attack drop, that actually very much mattered. I'm just going to end this really quick because I messed up really bad on this one, so. And that's perfectly fine. You can't win them all. Okay, so my big adjustment is one, I'm going to switch up to where like I have a fast mode in the back, and two, I'm going to make it to where I don't Earthquake myself. And just seeing Ting Lu in this match alone makes it to where like I want to really explore the bear a little bit more. So, seeing how well that offensively can kind of help. Oh. Well, let's hope he returns. He was beating me. So, we will see. Yeah, I do think, though, my brain is a little foggy after working a little while today, but that's okay. Okay, there we go. Next round. I really think I lead it very similarly. I don't necessarily think I need to just lead a fast mode. I mean, I could. I honestly could. But because he's Terra Poison, I don't necessarily want to lead like these two. I think Ogerpon is going to be the mon I bring in the back, though. I gotta see where the Tailwind is going to help. So far, I haven't seen where it can, so... Which is okay, this is why you test. And it's only been one battle. But even in my locals, Tailwind has been something for me that I've never, like, wished I had. So... Alright, perfect. Now, I can just go for Fake Out into this slot again, just to kind of guarantee, you know, that I'll be alright. Because he's a little bit more of a threat, so... Man, we even lived a crit. That's actually really nice. I think Fluttermane protects here. And you go for Earth Power on your Landorus. Because you should identify the threat that Heavy Slam can just kill. If he doesn't, it's absolutely fine. I have an Amorous in the back. So biggest thing is that he doesn't protect his Landorus. Which I highly doubt you do. I don't see a situation in where you're, like, scared to protect Lando. Yeah, exactly. So. And right there, if I was bold, that would have been a roll. So, I'm glad with that decision. Again, I really don't see you attacking. If you do, I'm not really super scared of the damage. So, yeah. Nice. And the second match is going fairly well. Goes for the double, doesn't get it, so we're able to pretty much clean up from there. And there we go. Perfect. Now, the biggest thing is I'll probably save... Nah, I don't necessarily need to save my Terra, because this should guarantee the KO onto Iron Hands. The Terra will. So even with the spiky shield, should be fine. I should have psychicked the Iron Hands for the just in case, because he obviously can't protect because he's assault vested, so. And because my backline is a fast mon, I won't worry about setting up the Trick Room. The bulk of an Amorous kind of just comes in clutch, and we finish that round fairly easily. Now, the game is 1-1. As you can see, the biggest benefit of this team actually so far is that Trick Room mode that I've been kind of experiencing. Ogerpon, though, is so good. It's one of those Pokemon that just really threatens. Because you have to be able to predict what your opponent is going to do. So, it's really unforgiving. You have to initialize, like, you have to be able to really go, okay, I can't really just click buttons. You have to think about what your opponent is doing because of Ogerpon, and that's what I really like about him. If you haven't tried the Teal Mask Ogerpon, I'd highly recommend trying him out. He's actually really solid. I'm not doing him too much justice by not playing him here, but that's okay. Let's see. I predict him to actually lead his Arcanine here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to try to take advantage of that prediction, and I will just send Farigiraf Ogerpon out. I'll have an Amorous Iron Hands in the back this time. I'm hard reading a lead here. Normally I wouldn't really do that, but as I was about to say, because of how he's been wanting to kind of play and present himself, I wasn't really super scared of going for this type of lead. So, what I'm going to do here is he's got two options. I am just going to Ivy Cudgel into this slot and Trick Room. He can't E-Speed, so even if he does this play, it's absolutely fine. Ogerpon was more of the bait anyways, because now, once again, I get my Trick Room up. And now, it's really time for me to kind of just pop off. In all honesty, Dazzling Gleam into Psychic into this slot. I'm not super scared of what you can do. I know the damage output of Hisuian Arcanine that's Choice Banded, so I will tag that slot. Because he's Choice Banded, I'd assume he's pretty fast, so I'm not going to, like, discount his bulk, but in the same sense, I'm pretty sure I can get him. Yep. And that's why you run that little... Ooh, that special attack drop is a little unfortunate. It is also okay because I have Farigiraf here who is not useless, putting in some big work, so... And even if he takes out my Enamorus here, I still have Iron Hands in the back, so... Perfect. And now, he does have Follow Me, so I am going to just Wild Charge this slot, and I'm also going to Psychic into this slot. Because if he doesn't follow me, I just Psychic this slot to kill it. If he does follow me, I will Psychic into you, and most likely have to just kind of take the hit from Flutter, which is fine as well. Follow Me is obviously his best play, so I wonder if he sees it. He does go for the Spiky Shield. Okay. That was a little unfortunate. I was realizing a bit that that Follow Me could have been really detrimental. So now it's pretty much Farigiraf versus Landorus because I'm of course just going to Wild Charge into this slot. I am going to try to Dazzle just so I can get some damage into the Landorus if he did decide to go for Follow Me. So, those awkward speed tiers. I am just going to Heavy Slam and go for the Trick Room again. Yep. And that's why max special defense is very important on Iron Hands. So, there we go. And that is a very much a GG. Very well played by my opponent too. But just didn't have very good answers in the Trick Room. Okay, now it's time for a little bit of a faster mode. I did like my Iron Hands a lot on that last team though. So, that is something that I do want to consider. And I didn't necessarily need my ground type, so we'll see if that's a continued trend. Because Weezing could be that Mon that is just necessary for my team. Alright. We are versing Mr. Castor Brown with the Iron Plate. It's kind of fun. Trying to be a little bit of a hipster. And we see the substitute Landorus Incarnate. What? This is the second Landorus Incarnate. I guess keep our eyes out for Landorus Incarnate. And then he's running the same type of Roaring Moon I am. This team, though, is very susceptible to Trick Room. So I will just run my Trick Room. I actually really like Urs in this one, so I'm going to utilize Ursaluna. And then thinking about the fast mode that I might need in the end game, Roaring Moon is going to be kind of nice. It does suck that I don't have Acro specifically for, like, Ogerpon. My Ogerpon also looks really nice. And Enamorus actually could be pretty nice. I actually am going to bring Enamorus because I think Enamorus can live one hit from my opponent. So we'll kind of go from there. We see the Nasty Plot Golden-Go. All I really need to do is just kind of, you know, they're not going to be able to kill Ursaluna in one hit. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch into Ursaluna. Because I'm not bold, that knockoff could kill. I am going to Terra Fairy myself in Trick Room, specifically so that I can guarantee the Trick Room and give Ursaluna a for sure slot to be able to get itself in here. Now there we go. Perfect. Now the biggest thing with this is I know that Roaring Moon isn't really a threat to me like at all, especially with the Terra Fairy. I can just straightforward go for Headlong Rush and Dazzling Gleam. Even at -1, Ursaluna is going to be doing so much that I really don't need to worry too much, even with the Breaking Swipe. So, boom. Because Ursaluna is slower, that's going to be a solo targeted hit, and Headlong Rush should just take out Golden-Go. He is Terra Dragon, so either way, we're in a fairly solid spot. This Trick Room is very, very strong, And I am so glad I am actually able to demonstrate how powerful the Iron Hands for Rigorath Trick Room truly is. So, yeah, it's really nice to be able to kind of see that. I don't necessarily think I need a Tailwind mode. After seeing both of these kind of strategies just go in, and that was a really good read by my opponent, but now I know exactly where his Terra is going to be. It's like, oh yeah, he got me with that, but I now have Psychic into his Roaring Moon, and he's going to have to spam Protect into this slot, and then possibly Predict and go into his Golden Go. There's a lot he's got to do right, so I'm just going to play my outs, and I'm going to play them really, really powerfully. Now, I am going to read him going into his Golden Go. Just because of the way he's playing right now, he's trying to outlive my Trick Room spam. So him being able to go, okay, I need to keep my Landorus in play. It's really important for the Iron Hands in the back because Farigiraf is already Terra'd. This is the thought process that I would be going through. So I need to switch my Landorus into something that can take that Facade. In my head, it's the Golden Go. So we're going to see if we call this properly or not. I might not. I'm willing to bet, though, that I'm probably calling this right. And I did. Yep. Perfect. It was a good call. And now we're in a pretty solid spot. Ooh, that crit's pretty big. I would like to get my Trick Room back up. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be free, though. I am going to switch into my Enamorus just so I don't have this attack drop. I'm going to go for it. I might not live it. Yeah, I should have saw the Sludge Bomb coming, and that's perfectly fine. Perfect. Now, I've got Iron Hands that can come out. I can pretty safely just go for Dazzling Gleam and Fake Out into his Landorus. Landorus will go for Protect. Iron Hands will go down. And then pretty much it's going to be Enamorus and Ursaluna and Iron Hands versus the Roaring Moon and the Landorus Incarnate. Hey, that's a really solid play. I am going to go pretty hard into this Roaring Moon slot. I know that he just protected, but in the same sense, you will need to double. I mean, you can't really double my Enamorus too well. I almost think that he wants to go for, like, knockoff or breaking swipe. That does solid damage. See, there we go. That's the not the benefit right there of running that faster hands. I think if I had more into attack right there specifically for my team, I'd be in a really solid spot. So, I think it's pretty safe for him to go just for breaking swipe and then try to get the KO into Iron Hands. So with that knowledge, I am just going to go for Facade into Landorus and then just try to finish up what I had started. Wow, that was actually a very solid play. I predict him to just want to go for Fake Out into my hands and get rid of my hands. So I am just going to go for Facade into that slot. I'm going to try to just KO or do as much damage as I can into his Iron Hands. So we'll get rid of the Landorus, hopefully. Even at -1, I mean, this Facade is nasty powerful, so we should be pretty good. He does predict properly, and he goes for Substitute. It's actually probably one of the safest options he could go for. So yeah, that should be the game. Because I have no Assault Vest on my my Iron Hands anymore, so that should just pick up the KO. The adjustment I'm going to make in this next game is just bringing my Fast Mode like I was mentioning. And realizing that my Iron Hands really doesn't have that much attack. I'm not used to it being that weak. I mean, I guess like you could get used to that spread fairly easily, but I don't think it accents my team very well. I like the slower but hits harder Iron Hands, so we'll kind of lead into that for the future. But for right now, I'm going to go Ogre Pawn for Farigiraf to see if I can take advantage of the Arcanine here. And then I am going to just go with a Namorous, and I think I go with Ursaluna. Ursaluna did really well in my last round, so. Okay. I mean, the Ursaluna switch into Trick Room, it's obvious that it's going to most likely happen again, but the biggest reason on why I'm going to go for this is specifically because, again, he really doesn't have the best answer to stopping it. He could predict me to go for Terra Fairy and really try to get rid of Farigiraf, but seeing how well I took that knockoff the last time, I'm handling it fairly well. The Make It Rain will take me out, though. It's a good call. See, if I would have led Iron Hands, it would have been a little bit different for me, so. But him being at -1 is actually really bad for him. I'm going to go for Earthquake, and I will Spiky Shield. I really have to hope for him to mess up, just because I did hard index on my Trick Room mode. And that's all part of testing. So, and hey, this is perfectly fine. I should take out both of these two if I'm not mistaken. Really? Roaring Moon lives? Wow. Wow. That must mean he's got a pretty bulky Roaring Moon. I'm going to Earthquake and I'm going to switch into Enamorous, predicting him to go for the Fake Out into Ogerpon because there's really no reason not to. So. And if he just predicts Ogerpon to switch out into Enamorous and he just goes straight for the Wild Charge or Heavy Slam, kudos to him. Because Drain Punch is better into Ogerpon. But we'll see. We'll see what he goes for. He does just go for Fake Out into Ursaluna and then just knocks off my Enamorous. I think just going for Dazzling Gleam and then just Terra Grass Cudgel for max damage is going to be my best bet. Even without the specs, I'm still doing massive damage. If anybody is used to max Modest Flutter Mane, that's how much damage I am doing. Exactly. So, we will see if I can kind of pick up some knockouts. He does go for the Tailwind. I do get the crit, but does he kill with the Heavy Slam? He does kill with the Heavy Slam. And that's where the fast Iron Hands can come in very clutch. So, I do know that I'm faster than the Iron Hands. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to Spiky Shield just to kill him fairly quick here. And then his next Mon will come in. It is the Landorus Incarnate. If he didn't get his Tailwind up, that's where the Tailwind actually comes in very clutch. But for my team, I'm not really liking it that much. I think like the bulkier Iron Hands actually kind of came in a little bit more clutch there. So we're going to go back with him with the Weezing Core. And next up is Weezing. Now the biggest thing that I'm trying to identify is if this slot can be more supportive and it still feel good. So yeah. Some people are picking up. He's very good. He's very good. But yeah, I have a guaranteed Trick Room, if I want it. But seeing the Torkoal, I don't necessarily want it. I honestly think what I could go for is I could actually go for a fast mode in bringing Roaring Moon and Enamorous, and then click Tailwind, and then just start Dazzle Gleam spamming, and then have Farigiraf in the back with... I'm going to go with Hands, just because Hands is a really nice bulky defensive switch-in, and can provide a lot of offense when needed. Yeah, that's perfect. I can just go for Tailwind, and I could even just go for Knockoff here into Flutter. Haste, Terra, Poison. I think this is still a fine play. Okay, so the knockoff will kill. That's incredible. He goes for the poison jab, doesn't take me out. I didn't necessarily need Terra Fairy there. What I'm going to actually do is I'm going to be bringing in Iron Hands, specifically so that I can kind of spook the Urshifu into Protect. I'm going to go for Wild Charge here, and I think it's actually more beneficial for me. Yeah, I'm just going to switch into Farigiraf, Heart Switch. Perfect. Now, he can pretty much just do immense amounts of damage with Wicked Blow into my Farigiraf. I do not want that, so down goes the Urshifu. Outrage still does an atrocious amount of damage, but we are able to secure the knockout with Iron Hands, and we can kind of see where we are going to go from here. Honestly, this is a pretty solid spot, as long as I can kind of take him out with the Dazzling Gleam. So that's what we are hoping. And he might be a pretty quick Iron Hands. I know a lot of them are running this speed. He forgot about the Armor Tail. Uh-oh. It's not good for him. This should take out, though, because I have that Modest Nature. It actually doesn't. That's really surprising. Wow. Okay. Either way, he gets taken out, so going for Psychic into Iron Hands was the smartest option by default. And perfect. That showcases to me that we are in a solid spot to be able to take game 1. Excellent. Again, the more powerful Iron Hands showcases why it's a little bit better. And I'm actually liking the idea of having Weezing in the back is really, really nice. So, I still liked my lead. Even though Roaring Moon immediately died, I have a lot of pressure being able to just go, well, I can knock off your item and then immediately take you out with an Amorous. So, I do like that pressure I was able to cause. I think Farigiraf is so good in this match, like, just offensively speaking. I love it. And then I'm probably going to save Terra Fairy for Farigiraf in the back and do as much damage as I can with an Amorous. And really, I'm just going to go with Iron Hands again. This time, though, I'm going to just go for Tailwind. And Dazzling Gleam. Either way, I'm getting a Terra out of one of these two. So, and if Urshifu decides it wants to Protect, the beautiful thing about that will be I can now take initiative into Urshifu the next turn. So he does decide he just wants to Terra Fairy again. And Amorous takes that really well. And I am sadly slower than the Urshifu after Tailwind, which is absolutely fine. Very much expected. Even after Tailwind, I'm at 160. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to Trick Room. And yeah, we'll just Terra Fairy, Trick Room, into Heavy Slam on Flutter, which is perfectly fine. I think I do lose this round, though. He went for Detect, which fairly obvious. I'm going to just go for Dazzling Gleam and Drain Punch his Urshifu. So, kind of go from there. He does not have Heavy Slam, which might give me the opportunity to come back, which is kind of crazy. So I should still be slower than Dragonite with Iron Hands. I might not be. That crit's huge. For some reason, he went for Ice Spinner. So I know I'm going to be slower with my Iron Hands, which is something I'm going to take initiative of. All I need to do is guarantee 1 kill, which means I go hard into the Iron Hand slot. Wow. Mint speed? Huh. Oh, because he is the Trick Room team. He is the Trick Room team. So, I don't think Tailwind was the right option. So we're just going to switch things up a little bit. I think Ogerpon as a lead can actually be really nice here. And possibly even Iron Hands. I think I just go Ogerpon Iron Hands, have Farigiraf, and possibly just the Enamorus in the back. I'm going to just have the Enamorus in the back. Yeah, because on this play, I can just straightforward go for this Ivy Cudgel, fake out Urshifu. I know for a fact that this Ivy Cudgel is enough to take out the Flutter Mane, and I also know after Terra, I am faster. So down goes Flutter after this turn, and that is absolutely a trade I am willing to make for my Terra. So we do see the Dragonite is the next one to come out. I am just going to Ivy Cudgel into the Urshifu. Urshifu does not have Sucker Punch, so E-Speed should not be enough to KO me unless he Terra Normals, which if he does that, I'm actually not like super worried about the Terra Normal. And the reason being is because Iron Hands will just take advantage of that immediately. My Farigiraf is a perfect mon here because I can decide whether or not Trick Room or just keeping up my mons is the smarter play. And in all honesty, just keeping up my mons is the smarter play. I go for Dazzling Gleam and Wild Charge specifically so I could do super effective damage into Dragonite while being able to still hit the Iron Hands for a little bit of damage. We do see the Terra Ground. No Earthquake. Interesting. 45. So I'm going to be slower. So I'm going to Trick Room, and I'm going to switch into Enamorus. He does go for Outrage. That is just unfortunate. But, you know, that is just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Still, either way, even if I lose this one, I'm still incredibly proud of the way that this team has kind of performed. So, in all honesty, he just went for Outrage, so he's locked into it, so I take him out on this turn for sure. Okay. Cool, hits the wrong slot, so that just works out perfectly for me. Down goes Dragonite, and a lot of damage into Iron Hands. Perfect. Next up, I can just spam Drain Punch and Dazzling Gleam. And that, my friends, is a sealed game. I do really appreciate the supportive slot. I think Weezing is actually a Pokemon, maybe not even just specifically Weezing, but like, out of seeing these, this team right here, I think, gave me a little bit more of like a winning kind of feeling. And I also am thinking I'm going to switch this back to Acrobatics and Terra Flying, specifically so that I have those options moving forward, just so I have a little bit more of a hyper-offensive Roaring Moon for my backline. And, you know, in those moments where the Flutter Mane was Choice Specs, I easily could have just Terra Flying Acrobatics, guaranteed myself a one-shot. So, it's things like that that you have to consider within Pokemon that really can alter and change the way that your games are played. But yeah, I really appreciate anybody who has clicked on this video and watched it. I will be optimizing this Weezing set a little bit more. I do think this is the winning team out of the 3 matches I played. I know they only got 1 match each, but I will be going a little bit more in depth throughout the week, throughout the upcoming weeks as well, just into this team to see how I can best optimize it. Again, I very much appreciate every single one of you for watching this video. I hope you all continue to live large and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.